As the clock ticks to almost 1 year of the Tinubu administration that kicked off with a renewed vigor, different policies were streamlined to set the pace for the administration. One critical aspect of commitment shown by the administration is road infrastructure, with a goal to enhance transportation. Roads are acknowledged to be critical for a country's development, as good road networks drives community and regional development. Economic growth stimulates job creation and connects communities. If you recall, not too long, President Bola Tinubu demonstrated his administration's commitment with the approval of the renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund to bridge the country's $25 billion per annum infrastructure funding gap. Well, some experts are optimistic that with the pace of construction and reconstruction of ongoing projects, the nation is on a path to prosperity, which they say requires collective efforts. While we navigate through these road networks from the north to the south, down to the west and east, to assess how these roads have created room for accessibility, we will also underscore its impact on social and economic prosperity for the nation. Plus, we will x-ray some of the challenges and ways of resolving the issues. On Wake and File tonight, we will update you on critical roads infrastructure, and our guests are Engineer Saidu Hassan, National Chairman, Nigerian Institution of Highway and Transportation Engineers. He'll be joining us via Zoom. And we have in the studio Engineer Felix Atume, former Registrar of Kuren. Our reporters have filed in reports and updates of ongoing projects from across the country. Welcome. This is Weekend File. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Ruth Aguilera. First, we begin with the news. The Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Muhammad Sa'ad Abubakar, and the Shehu of Borno, Abubakar ibn Umar Garbey El Kanemi, have called for robust synergy between citizens and security agencies on intelligence gathering for the country to win the fight against insecurity. The monarchs, at the 5th anniversary of the Emir of Lafia in Nasarawa State, urged traditional rulers to complement government efforts by promoting harmonious coexistence in their domains. Let's hear from Aliyu Tijani.
Community It's a convergence of royal fathers from the north, south and west, with solidarity of their counterpart across the Niger, who met in Lafia, in their commitment to building bridges of unity and sustained conversations for a united Nigeria. Issues of insecurity, poverty and education resonate as the traditional rulers are unanimous in supporting government effort in tackling insecurity through sustained engagement with their subjects, promote community policing, and monitor influx of suspicious persons in their environment. The Sultan of Sokoto and the Shehu of Borno emphasized that winning the war against insurgency and banditry, among other security challenges, requires collective effort.
Our governors need to work. They are working, but Nigerians are in a hurry.
The only permanent solution to these our problems are two. One, prayers. Two, to provide useful and credible information to the law enforcement agencies.
For us in Nasarawa State, we are forever grateful to our traditional rulers for their support, for their kindness, because with the support we are able to see a lot of progress, a lot of development going on.
Treated to a Doba depicting royalty and cultural heritage. Dignitaries were also introduced to the first museum of the Lafia Emirate Council. In Lafia, Aliyu Tijani, NTA News.
Akwa Ibom State Government is seeking the support of the federal government for the development of the Ibom Deep Sea Port and its palm oil refinery. This was when the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, visited Governor Umo Eno in Uyo. Let's hear from Kelvin Samuel.
The Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio, commends Governor Eno for his peaceful disposition as well as his numerous achievements within the short period of time in office.
All must come together. I'm expected to sit here and criticize you because I'm not in the same political party with you. And you are expected to sit there and criticize Asiwaju and the federal government. But I think elections are over and we are now doing governance. So we must work together across party lines.
We want to thank the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for standing by you and supporting the decision of your colleagues that today Akwa Ibom has the number 3 citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The Senate President and his team are in the state ahead of his formal reception by the people of Ikorekpene Senatorial District. From the Government House, Kelvin Samuel, NTA News.
In other news, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission says it is committed to protecting the interests of the federal government as some international oil companies dispose and close transactions in Nigeria. Lydia Sampson reports.
Group and the buying group brought together face-to-face by the NUPRC, the regulatory agency mandated by the Petroleum Industry Act to ensure transparency in the process. Benga Komolafe says, armed with the legal backing provided by the law, the Commission is determined to ensure adherence to divestment guidelines from all parties.
The President, in his capacity as the Honorable Minister of Petroleum, has directed the Commission to ensure a smooth entry and exit framework for the ongoing divestment by the divesting entities. To this end, we have implemented robust measures to streamline the regulatory oversight and procedures and eliminate unnecessary barriers to investment.
And we encourage you to please play by the rules, abide by the guidelines, make informed decisions about the options. And the key issue here is who takes responsibility for the liabilities.
A cross-section of stakeholders applauded the fact that the stop date is in sight instead of what looks like an endless process. They are unanimous that the delayed divestment was not in the best interest of all, as oil production has been dwindling. With a projected timeline of 3 months, optimism is high, enabling the investment climate in the upstream sector in line with the President Bola Tinubu's vision and directive will be realized. In Abuja, Lydia Sampson, NTA News.
The Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gaidam, has advised court members serving in the ministry to champion the crusade against internet fraud that affects the image of the country. The minister stated this during the presentation of report on the role of court members in improving policing in Nigeria at a meeting with NYSC members serving in the ministry in Abuja. Francis Pham reports.
Members serving in the Ministry of Police Affairs, and the gathering is to celebrate their creativity, research towards finding a lasting solution to some of the country's numerous insecurity problems.
Remember that you are not just serving the Ministry of Police Affairs, you are serving the people of Nigeria.
The core members focus on different issues, including climate change, insecurity, the economy, fighting cybercrime, and Interpol and its role on effective crime control, amongst others. In another development, Minister of Police Affairs says Nigeria is committed to working closely with Brazil to ensure a fair and transparent Interpol election process that upholds the principles of democracy and accountability. This was when the minister hosted the Interpol General Secretary aspirant in his office in Abuja.
And we believe that his experience and dedication make him a strong candidate for the position of the Secretary General.
The two nations have worked together on various fronts, including economic development, cultural exchange, counter-terrorism, transnational crime, and cybersecurity. Francis Pham, NTA News.
Managing disasters and disease outbreaks require integrated approaches to saving more lives and determining intervention plans for recovery. Elizabeth Omori reports that this was the view of key actors at Red Cross Nigeria as they warm up for the commemoration of the humanitarian organization to keep humanity alive.
Landslides, floods, and pandemics are natural hazards that kill thousands of people and destroy property each year. For decades till date, the Red Cross has been providing comfort to affected persons and nations, distributing humanitarian aids and imparting skills to save lives. These acts of humanity, President, Red Cross Nigeria, Oluyemisi Adiaga, has been celebrated for 161 years, and this year, a series of events have been earmarked.
We shall have a national blood donation drive and medical checkup.
Disaster management, disease outbreak response strategy, and volunteerism, they say, should be shared responsibilities driven by commitment.
For us, we also take this opportunity to remind that humanity is really what brings us all together.
They encouraged nations to invest in pandemic preparedness. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
President Bola Tinubu heartily congratulates Senator Simon Lalong on the occasion of his birthday. In a statement, the president commends the illustrious public service career of the lawyer, politician, serving Plateau State as Assembly Speaker, a governor, and the federal level as a minister and currently a senator. He thanked Lalong for his role as Director General of the Renewed Hope presidential campaign and wishes him many more years in good health. All right, we're going on a break now. Remember, when we come back, I told you we'll be updating you on critical roads infrastructure. That will begin after the break. Stay tuned. Good to know you're there. Before we update you on critical roads infrastructure, why don't we fill you in on what's happening, ongoing project across the country? Well, since the advent of the Renewed Hope agenda, millions of motorists have had smooth rides home, with others having it rough due to ongoing reconstructions. Abdullahi Mohammed reports that hope for the hopeless comes with a technocrat overseeing the works. All right, we seem to be having audio challenge there with that report. Let's bring you another one. Injecting life into any economy requires investment in infrastructure that constantly reassures the people of growth trajectory for years to come. This is what gives the federal government the conviction to embark on construction of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. Larry Belain takes a look at the potential of the project as work commences.
The highway has been in the plan of the federal government for over a decade. The 700-kilometer coastal road connects Ogun, Ondo, Delta, Edo, Bayelsa, Rivers, and Akwa Ibom states.
Think of the fact that we're having Lake Deep Sea Port and all the ship that cannot bet in Apapa because of the shallow depth.
Although kilometers 0 to 47 of this project pose a challenge, as it has many structures, both business and private, along the right-of-way of the highway. It has led the federal government to enumerate some structures for demolition, with an immediate process for compensation.
A good number of them are happy with what the federal government is doing for them.
And we also want to thank federal government for also compensating us.
It is the largest single infrastructure project in Nigeria to be constructed in phases built to connect all the spurs.
The Golden Triangle includes the coastal road to Lagos, Calabar, and that of Sokoto, so that it will just form a kind of triangle within the Nigeria. And we even have the one we are talking about, the one of the super highway to Abuja.
The Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway is also designed to have a rail line and road expanded to 10 lanes using concrete for its surface. In Lagos, Larry Bileyi, NTA News.
Well, that's a huge investment there. Let's take you back to the report we called earlier on, critical road infrastructure. We told you hope for the hopeless when we're looking at road infrastructure. Well, a technocrat is overseeing the affairs. Let's see that again.
The year 2018, the total length of federal roads across the country stood at about 36,000 kilometers, a significant part of which have been undergoing rehabilitation and some reconstruction, especially the leading trunks. With a civil engineer taking charge, mode of supervision of work takes a new dimension, with many of the projects facing reviews, queries.
I do not accept this. This your tolling plaza roof is what you don't see this one in China. So why do you come to put this for us? Okay? Under me, I will not accept things like this.
Cancellations and contract modifications. All these moves in the interest of the public and saving the nation a fortune.
In one project, the Honorable Minister, Dr. Omari, was able to save Nigeria 640 billion naira.
Saving the country its hard-earned income a priority. The utilization of the tax credit scheme on some portion of the Lokoja Benin Highway, a perfect example. With quality checked on many of the highways where the men and machines still stand, and others where the whites and black pens rule, the workaholic has opened up a new vista. A 700 kilometers highway by the coast. And just before the headlines fade, another 1,000 kilometers from Sokoto to Badagry in the Orphan. In Abuja, Abdullah Mohammed, NTA News.
All right, well, let's bring in our guest now. We have Engineer Saidu Hassan. He's joining us via Zoom. He's the National Chairman, Nigerian Institute of Highway and Transportation Engineers. Engineer Hassan, can you hear me? Good to have you on Weekend File. And we also have in the studio here Engineer Felix Atume. He's the former registrar of Kuren. Thank you very much, Engineer Atume.
Thank you.
All right, but I'd like to start with Engineer Hassan, following that report we just saw. Engineer Hassan, we saw the minister, since he came on board, that renewed vigor of showing commitment, demonstrating the federal government's commitment to critical roads infrastructure. You're aware of the, highway projects, ongoing project. We're seeing reconstruction and construction going on. We hear about 2,097 currently under the ministry's watch. From your assessment, going by what you saw earlier played out on cancellation of contracts due to substandard of some roads, looking at the quality, what's your assessment?
Thank you very much for having me. Like you said in your introduction, your road infrastructure is one of the most critical infrastructure for an economic growth, because it's the single infrastructure that will lead to part of economic growth. And from the clips we've seen, the federal government, the construction of road is so massive today. Massive in the sense that, like you said, we have an existing 2,604 kilometer of road construction ongoing in Nigeria today. As said by the Honorable Minister for Works, David Omai, out of this 2,604 kilometers, we have now come up with a new construction of the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway. And as just Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway was flagged up, now we are talking about the design already ongoing for the 1,000 kilometer Sokoto Badagry Highway. So from this summary, you can see that it's so massive in the sense that in this roads brought to conclusion in the sense that if this road can be completed, I think that will be where Nigeria will have one of the economic growth will be like I said, the economic growth of the country will be enhanced. Enhanced in the sense that the economy, the road construction will provide the right economy, because this construction will now provide the access for the movement of people, goods, and services. And this movement of people, goods, and services are done mostly by the roads. In fact, the road transportation is the major transportation mode we have in this country that carry most of our services, because you have the rail, you have the waterway, and you have the air. You have the air. But today, the road has taken the highest in terms of the movement of goods and services and people. So, like I said, the construction going on are very massive, and we as professionals applaud the government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for embarking on this massive road construction, because this is what will open our economy, and this opening of economy will lead to the path of economic growth. Like the Lagos Calabar coastal that traverse through 9 coastal states. If this contract is done from section 1 to the last section, the economy of the coastal area will be enhanced. There will be issue of security will be resolved, will be solved. The movement of goods and services within the coastal area will be enhanced. So I think this is quite massive, and I hope that there will be enough fund for this project, because funding has been the bane of our problem in terms of road construction in this country. Because if the funding are right, then we'll have good and better roads in this country.
Indeed, Engineer Hassan, the part you mentioned about funding has been part of the issues on ground that has stalled some of the ongoing project. We'll hear 90% completion, but due to paucity of funds. But let me get to Engineer Atume. Following federal government's interventions, we saw the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund, part of ways, to bridge that deficit when we're looking at road infrastructure. Now, these are huge investments going in when we're looking at the funding, and the funds are not readily available. And then you have the aspect of durability, ensuring that the funds are duly utilized, because these are massive projects we're talking about. What's your assessment as regard durability, I beg your pardon, of some of these projects?
Thank you very much. First, I would like to commend the federal government for the numerous ongoing road projects, particularly the construction of the the coastal road. That's a huge project. It's a national project, and I believe strongly that the engineers of the Ministry of Works must have carried out a total design of that road, so that there's going to be value for money on that project. Then let me comment on the issue of funding for road projects in Nigeria. Actually, the Federal Ministry of Works has taken so many projects, and the funding becomes a critical issue. At the moment, most of the funding for road projects is from the budget, and the budget is simply not enough. About 200,000 kilometers of roads, 30% they are about for the federal government. But if you look at the critical road infrastructure in Nigeria, they are owned by the federal government. Take the issue of the road from Abuja to Lokoja to Benin. The construction has been on for quite a long time. The issue is there's no adequate funding for that project. And there are very many roads like that. Another road from Makudi to Adoka to Ankwa, a very critical road. The road has been on for 5 years, no enough resources. And this has cut across the whole country. How do we improve the issue of funding of roads in Nigeria? The issue is the involvement of the private sector. The private sector is willing to come into road infrastructure, but the private sector cannot come in now as it is, because there are no reforms in the road sector. The private sector will come in through the public-private partnership. That is what is obtained everywhere in the world today. But in Nigeria, every bit of road is constructed from the budget. And there is a serious gap in funding. So what we can call that the new reforms are calling for is that there should be a new way or new ways of funding for road development. And I call on the present government to look at the reforms in the road sector. The reforms will bring about a stable source of funding, and that through the road funds. And then the institutional framework. The institutional framework will come about by establishing the Federal Road Authority. With this, the private sector will come into road development, and there are actual roads now that are candidates for public-private partnership, that the federal government will not need to spend money on those roads, but the investors will put in, rehabilitate the roads, and then tow the roads and get back the money on their investment. This is the only way to go. The government is desirous, so much is going on, but the issue of adequate funding for road infrastructure is critical.
Okay, Engineer Atume, let's bring in Engineer Hassan. You've made a very salient point on the role of the private sector. Engineer Hassan, you brought up the issue of the paucity of funds, and I know part of your mandate in the institution is to ensure safety of roads, monitoring, reform, financing is also part of it. Or rather, how are you engaging road stakeholders, for sustainability and management of this highway infrastructure? What are you recommending as an institution?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me take you back to history. The issue of road reform started since 1961 by the Way Commission. The Federal Ministry of Works, the Nigerian Society of Engineers, and other bodies try to see how we can leverage on getting funding outside the budgetary allocation, because the budgetary allocation alone is inadequate to fund our highway project. So it leads to Vision 2000. The Vision 2000 committee also moved to, in an attempt to resolve this issue, the Federal Road Maintenance Agency, FEMA, was formed. FEMA came in. Still, we have issues in terms of funding. And now we have the road reform bill. The road sector reform bill has been passed by both the 8th and the 9th Assembly. This reform bill is just simply the Federal Road Authority and the road funds. The road fund is just a funding that can sustain our highway project. And unfortunately, these bills were not ascended to. And we are now calling on President Hamid Tinubu and the National Assembly to go back and look at these reforms, because most of the issues we have in our sector, the solutions are in this road reform. If these bills are passed, we'll be able to have the right funding, because you will see that most of the budgetary allocation were not able to fund this critical road in Nigeria. For example, the second Niger Bridge and other Lagos-Ibadan, the Maiduguri-Kano Expressway, we have to bring what they call the intervention through the executive orders that we're able to get the necessary funding to complete these roads that people are now enjoying. Such as the Scoop Fund, the credit card scheme. But the road reform bills are the solution to our problem for sustainability, because the road user and other people will be funding this maintenance, routine, maintenance, and even construction of this road from time to time without the budgetary allocation. Because the budget allocation
Engineer
is quite
Hassan,
not sufficient.
I'd like to come in there. We have to hold those thoughts. We have to take a break. We'll pick up with the conversation when we come back. Stay tuned.
Each moment is a gift.
Good to have you there. So before we pick up the conversation, let's update you on some ongoing projects. In Enugu, we hear the Enugu-Aba-Port Harcourt Highway, which was constructed in the late 70s, currently undergoing reconstruction by the Tinubu administration, has reached an appreciable stage. Blessing Anyanwu reports that it was an echo of acknowledgements as road users commend the pace of work.
The reconstruction of Enugu-Aba-Port Harcourt Expressway came as a big relief as travelers had suffered and told hardship plying the road.
Before, from here to Enugu town, it will take us a lot of hours before we reach. But now, just a twinkle of an eye, we will reach to Enugu town.
The government are trying very, very well, and the workers now they are putting more effort to make sure we didn't suffer what suffered last year, so that everything will be okay for us.
At the 61.15 kilometer Enugu-Port Harcourt axis, workers reached 90% completion, with about 59 kilometers at binders level. At the moment, wearing of the remaining 3.4 kilometers is ongoing alongside maiden and side drainages.
And so far, the warning course is not much left, and we are trying our best to finish it as soon as possible.
Making good progress. We've done up to 90% plus. Maybe if everything works out perfectly, within 2 weeks, we should be done with it.
At Osisioma-Aba axis, the contractors are fixing the pedestrian bridge at the Orata axis with the promise to get to the popular spare part market at Aloji. In Enugu, Chiegono Aro, NTA News.
Well, from Kaduna, the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano highway under reconstruction, well, here has been a bittersweet experience for commuters. And this explains why the call for speedy works becomes popular. Well, Haruna Mohammed is here to bring us a situation report on the Abuja-Kaduna-Kano dual carriage highway.
The Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano highway, spanning 375 kilometers, a critical carriageway that connects different parts of Nigeria through the nerves of import and export. The federal government had in 2018 awarded contract for its reconstruction. A significant part of the Kaduna-Kano segment has been completed, with commuters suffering the moment.
By my right is Kaduna State, and by my left leads to Kano State through Zaria. And according to commuters on this corridor, it is a bittersweet feeling.
If we find ourselves in a place that they finish that place, we used to enjoy it because we move smoothly, and even the passengers are enjoying it.
After we passed Station Yari, some were not completed at all by Kano to Kaduna to Kano.
Abuja-Kaduna corridor is a fleet that is still a work in progress. The 21-kilometer Kaduna bypass is another commuter's headache. Though the latest technology is being utilized in the construction, the pace is slow.
For now, commuters are looking forward to the completion of the remaining section of the highway in order to breathe a sigh of relief. In Kaduna, I am Haruna Mohammed, NTA News.
Thank you, Haruna. Commuters and other users of the Kefi-Akwanga-Lafia-Makurdi Road have applauded the federal government for the construction of the project, saying the development has come with a lot of relief. Elias Itiaf felt the pulse of the people as he brings us the situation report.
Of the 220-kilometer Kefi-Akwanga-Lafia-Makurdi dual carriage road, which is implemented under the Nigerian-Chinese partnership, covers phase 1 of the project, while that of the 266-kilometer Makurdi-Otukbo-Enugu dual carriage road is under the phase 2 of the Belt and Roads Initiative. Under the terms of the project, Chinese government is to bear 85%, while the federal government of Nigeria is to provide 15% of the total cost, with the first phase already completed and open to the motoring public. Some of the features along the stretch of the roads are 4 toll gates, amongst other things, to generate revenue for its maintenance.
The structures of the toll gate has been completed. What is outstanding now is installing the cameras, the security gadgets.
This is Agan community, a suburb of Makurdi, the Benue State capital, where one of the toll gates is located. But for now, only the 2 extreme lanes are being used, the reason being that the facility has not been officially launched for use and for gate takings.
To thank the federal government for introducing this project.
The time before take here to Abuja is reduced. If you can carry 3 hours now, you will reach Abuja.
It's too late now. It drastically reduced the rate of fast there now.
With the flag off of the second phase of the dual carriage road project by the Minister of Works, Dave Umai in January 2024, residents of the state as well as other road users hope that the project will be completed on time to ease vehicular and human movement, among other benefits. In Makudi, Elias, Itiaf.
All right, so we pick up with the conversation on update of critical roads infrastructure. While the report was going on, we lost the signal from Engineer Saidu Hassan. I don't know if we have a reconnection back. Do we? Okay, great. Engineer Hassan, thank you for staying with us. But let me quickly talk to Engineer Atume here. Engineer Atume, you shared your concerns about the paucity of funds we're seeing, but funds have been released, for emergency repairs of about 260 thereabout roads across 36 states and the FCT. We're hearing from the ministry, and we also saw the $14 billion commitment as part of the Renewed Hope Infrastructure Development Fund. Now, funds are there, but the utilization of these funds, targeting this critical roads that are of high importance. Every road is important because it connects. But what are your thoughts regarding that?
Well, thank you very much. When you say funds are available, the next question is, are the funds adequate? Because there's a lot of problem with the road network in Nigeria. We should be looking at sustainable funding of road development in Nigeria. Not just today funds are made available, then after 2-3 years again, you start looking for funds to maintain the roads. The critical thing about road infrastructure in Nigeria is abandonment. After the construction, normally politicians would like to see new roads, new projects. National Assembly would like to approve new roads, new projects, but who maintains the roads and what is sustainable funding for maintenance? That's the big question in Nigeria. Let me put to the record straight. In the 70s and the 80s, Nigeria had the best network of roads in the whole of sub-Saharan Africa. What happened? The roads deteriorated without adequate intervention. And today, many roads will require total rehabilitation. So the funding must be sustainable. And the only way we can get sustainable funding of roads is to carry out the reform in the road sector and bring about the road funds. The road funds get money from licensing, motor licensing, toll gates, fuel levy, among others. Today, you are talking about tolling the roads for maintenance. That's fine. There are 4 toll gates from Kefi to Makurdi, 4 toll gates. When you collect the money, where would the money go to? You go to the national post. It may not go for maintenance. So the issue is, if there's no reform in the road sector, there will be a problem of sustainable sources of funds for road maintenance. And that's the critical thing in Nigeria. It's good to construct new roads, but if you don't maintain them, the road users will suffer. And any time there is a bad road, the person that suffers is the road user. Once you apply a road that is not maintained, you carry the burden. So what we are calling for is that we appreciate what the government is doing. It's doing a great deal of good job. But on a sustainable basis, there must be a way to look at other sources. And that is why my colleague said the 8th National Assembly approved the reforms in the road sector. They were before the president, they were not signed into law. Today we are back to square one with that the bill. We are appealing to the National Assembly to pass the bill so that it's put into law. Let us do something new. Let us do as it's happening in other countries. South Africa has the South African National Road Authority Limited. They are in charge of all the road networks in South Africa, and they are promoting public-private partnership. Why can't we do that here? Why must we depend totally on the budget? When there are roads candidates for a public-private partnership, the traffic model has approved it, the financial model from Abuja to Kaduna to Kano. They are candidates for public-private partnership. Bring in the private sector, they'll tow the roads and get back the investment. Must it be all the time government budget?
Okay.
That's the question.
Interesting question or rhetorical question you've left there. Engineer Hassan, let's hear your thoughts on this road maintenance issue. It's a big deal because sometime when the minister, Dave Umahi, came on board, he decried, he asked the question, are we going to be reconstructing or, what's the other word he said, maintaining roads every 10 years? Road maintenance has been an issue, for the country. When government is putting in efforts, with huge investments to make these highways, this infrastructure available for the populace, and then the deteriorated state, some have even termed it death traps. There are some parts of the roads when you travel by road, you don't want to go there. What are your final thoughts as we move forward?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think my colleague has said much of what we require. I want us to understand one thing. The reform we are talking about is what will bring sustainability to our road project, because it will bring the right funding. This road that we are constructing, we want to understand that they have lifespan, and the road require periodic and routine maintenance. You start the maintenance the day you start using that road. We allow our road to stay for over 10 years before we commence maintenance. In other time, maintenance starts the day you start using that particular road. And the solution to this problem is having we have the sustainable funding. That we are calling on the National Assembly, so that this reform, if they are passed into law, will bring private sector into the critical road infrastructure. For example, I want to, when the communication was under controlled by government before coming of other players in the communication system, you cannot have simple handset unless you have hundreds of thousands of naira. But today with 200 naira, you can have an handset. When we have this reform, you can have an alternative of the route you want to use, because the private sector will come in, they will build this route, and they will realize the investment through other tooling and other sources of cooking their investment. So the road is a solution to our road problem.
Thank you very much, Engineer Saidu Hassan. While we commend the federal government for its efforts, let's ensure that those contractors do the needful. They also play a very critical role. Engineer Saidu Hassan is the National Chairman, Nigerian Institution of Highway and Transportation Engineers. Thank you for your time on Weekend File.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Engineer Felix Atume, he's the former Registrar of Current. I know you have a final thought, but because of time, we'll just leave the conversation there, Engineer Atume. We know this is an ongoing conversation as we monitor ongoing critical projects by the federal government. Thank you, Engineer Atume.
Thank you very much.
All right. Glad you're there. So let's quickly bring you sports update.
Minister of Sport Development John Enoch has called on the Ministry of Information and National Orientation to ensure adequate priorities given to sport coverage in Nigeria. The minister stated this during a courtesy call on the minister, Mohammed Idris, in his office in Abuja, where he emphasized on the significant role sports play in the nation, especially as a unifier.
Without the coverage of those sports and games, we are not able to encourage mass participation. We are not able to encourage the kind of consciousness that is supposed to exist.
Ahead of the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup qualifiers, Nigerian girls, the Flamingos, who have the advantage of playing their away match against their Burkinabe counterpart on a neutral ground in Bamako, Mali. The decision follows FIFA's directive insisting that the Burkinabe cannot play in Ouagadougou as the pitch fails to meet up standard. The clash, which is scheduled for Saturday, May 11th, will see the return leg played at the Moshood Abiola National Stadium, Abuja, on Saturday, May 18th. Still on football, as Ipswich Town has joined Leicester City to qualify for the 2024-2025 Premier League season after 22 years away from the top flight football. The 2-0 win for Ipswich also condemned Huddersfield to relegation, where they will be joined by Birmingham and already relegated Rotherham. To the English Premier League, Arsenal cruised Trini past Bournemouth to remain at the top of the Premier League as the Gunners' hope for a Premier League title continues to rise. Meanwhile, it was a walkover for Manchester City over Wolves. In other result, Brentford were held to a goalless draw by Fulham as Newcastle trashed Burnley 4-1, while Nottingham Forest beat Sheffield United 3-1. For Sunday's fixtures, Brighton will welcome Aston Villa as Chelsea takes on West Ham and Liverpool slug it out with Tottenham at Anfield. And finally, Australian Open champion Jannik Sinner has announced on Saturday he will not be playing at the upcoming Italian Open following hip injury which forced him out of Madrid Open earlier this week. According to the tennis star, on his official X handle said the decision is coming after due consultation with his doctor, who was advised that he takes a break from the game. With sports update, Oche Ngbedi, NTA News.
The weekend is fully packed with those fixtures for sports lovers, football lovers, actually. And that's where we call it a night. Thank you for your company on Weekend File. Do have a good night rest. I'm Ruth Aguilera. Bye.
No matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together. Let's stop fighting each other. Let us live as one. It doesn't matter where you come from, your tribe or religion, man, woman or child. It doesn't matter who you are. Put Nigeria first. No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
How can we develop when we're always in crisis? Families have become refugees in their country. No matter our differences, show some understanding.
No matter where you come from, no matter your religion, we are one. Let's live together.
Celebrating cultural events provide important social and economic benefit with improved learning and health, increased tolerance and opportunity to come together with others. Cultural diversity is a driving force of development, not only with respect to economic growth, but also as an emotional, moral, and spiritual life.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Fellow Nigerians, it is a good thing to be Nigerian. Good news! The Office of the First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is organizing the National Fabric Competition, the #One Nigeria Unity Fabric Competition. The aim is to create a fabric design that would be indigenous to Nigeria,